Happy Sunday afternoon. It's Stacey Ashley here, and gosh, we are already at episode 6 of the summer series. So welcome if you're live, and I'm just going to check my stream to make sure we are completely live. And if you're watching the recording, great that you're sharing this as well. So today's focus is the Roadmap 2021, which of course is going to be a huge challenge to all of us because we're still faced with a world of uncertainty and change, and as leaders we have to figure out how to navigate that. So if you've been watching the series so far, you know it's all about getting you set up for 2021 so that you can show up as at your best as a leader. So again, welcome if you're live, and I'd love to hear from you about what's going to be important for you this year. All right, and we are live, which is awesome. So a couple of reasons that I wanted to focus on the roadmap. And this is about you setting up your own roadmap for 2021. It's about making sure that you have clarity about where to focus your energy and your time and your effort, so that you get the outcomes that are important to you and your tribe and your world. So a couple of things that I think are relevant. One is that as 2020 showed us, goals are important, but if circumstances change, they may become redundant or they might need to be changed quite significantly. And so a lot of the people that I've been working with, although we've set goals, underpinning those goals has been an intent or a focus, because the goal itself may need to move, but if the focus or the intent is clear, then we figure out how to deliver it given the changing circumstances and conditions. And so that's what I'm going to work with you on today in today's session about Roadmap 2021. So it's not necessarily about really fine-tuning your goals. It's about being clear about what your purpose and intention is going to be for this year, but giving you a framework within which you can then, work towards goals, but also that you can identify for yourself where you're making progress and where you're on intention or you're not on intention, so that you can adjust your course through the year. If you saw my article this week, it was one of the 3 things that I talked about in terms of keeping it simple in terms of your leadership for this year. One just being that, and number 1 being, be really clear about your intention for 2021. From there, your goals and your chart, will progress. So I want to share with you today an activity or an exercise which is about helping you to frame up for yourself what 2021 is going to be about for you. And it's called the 3 R's, and I'll share with you a resource if you want to actually get a copy of it later. But what you need right now is something to write on. I'm just going to pop my iPad up. Okay, and so what we're going to do, I'm just going to brainstorm with you, or get you to brainstorm. I'm going to ask you a series of questions just to get you to reflect on. Obviously, we'll go quite quickly because we're in a live, but if you want to, take this activity away and do it with more time and reflection and space, so that you can really put some good thought into this. So the first thing I want to do is to think about, in terms of your leadership, how do we frame it up? Because of course it can be so broad, but as you know, or you might know if we've been in contact for a little while, is that one of the things that I really like to do is to take something that's really complex and make it quite simple in terms of how to approach it, how to break it down, and how to really use it. And so the first thing that I want to share with you is that when we think about leadership, and there's lots of dimensions to it, but when we're thinking about intention and goal setting and what do we focus on and those sorts of things, let's just simplify it. And so I want to give you 4 key dimensions to think about for the coming year. They all start with P. It's nice and easy. So they are in no particular order of importance. And I can see a couple more people jumping on, so welcome. The first one is just to think about the types of projects that you need to focus on. So the specific things that are going to help you to move towards fulfilling your intention. And of course, if there are some goals that it satisfies as well, great. So projects is the first thing. People is the second component, and that comes in lots of forms. So that's about network and relationships, but it's about more than that. It's not just about work people, so team, peers, boss, stakeholders, but it's also the people outside of work. And so it could be family and partner and friends and just other social connections. So thinking about your leadership and your focus and intention for this year in that dimension. The third one is personal. Because, of course, as leaders, we need to first lead ourselves. So where do you need to focus this year? What's your intention for yourself as a leader for this year? And then the final one is performance. And that just gives us, I guess, a really simple frame to think about, as a leader, where are we going to focus? What's our intention for this year? As I said, there can be lots of others, but I just want to keep it really simple, and you can expand on this as suits you and your purposes. So for the purposes of this exercise, the 3 R's, you're going to need 4 columns on your piece of paper. So let's just get those drawn. Oh, okay, my iPad stopped working, so let's just sort that out. Okay, so we need 4 columns. There we go. Super simple. And we've got our 4 dimensions. And so I'm going to ask you a series of questions to cover these 4 dimensions. So they were projects. And you're going to need a bit more space than I'm allowing you here. So if you need to go over to a couple of pages, that's completely fine. So you've got people is next. And I, as you can see, I've run out of space, but we'll carry on. So the first thing that we're going to do is to really think about, for this year, for your 2021, when you think about your leadership, there's a really simple question that I want you to consider for yourself. And that is, in 12 months' time, what are the results that you want? So this is results in the right-hand column. And we're going to think about those things, the results that you want in those 4 dimensions. So actually what I'm going to do here is just put in the rest of my lines. So we've got everything covered. So we've got projects, we've got people. Sorry about that. We've got personal and we've got performance. And so the big question is for you in terms of results, 12 months time. Now, if you want to work on a shorter time frame, that's fine. If you only want to concentrate on 6 months or even 3 months because you're just not 100% sure, what are the conditions going to be like? What's going to change? What have I got to work with? Then shorten the time frame into one that you have at least some sense of the frame within which you are working. So with your results, what are the results you want in relation to the projects that are important, or what even are the projects that you need to have? So what are the results that you want to achieve in that 12 months? And so it might be to kick off a project. It might be, to make a certain amount of progress or achieve a milestone in relation to a particular project. It might be to initiate certain things. It might be to review and learn from particular projects or programs of work, if you like. So you would note down, each of those elements in your results. When it comes to the people around you, what are the results you want? What's the state of your network that you want? What are the relationships that you want to be strong? What are the new relationships that you want? What's the state that you want your relationship with your team to be in, your boss to be in, your stakeholders, customers, peers, families, and so on? What is the result that you want out of those things? And what would be the measure of that? Then the third one, from a personal perspective, what are the results that you want personally? Now, it might be about how you've set your boundaries between work and the rest of your life. It might be a particular area of focus that maybe it's about getting healthier, maybe it's about better sleep, maybe it's about the time that you spend with your family, maybe it's about some learning. What are the results that you want at a personal level over this next period, 3, 6, 12 months? Yeah. And then the final dimension is around performance. So for your own performance, what are the results that you want, in your leadership, in your role? What are the particular things that you want to focus on and make gains or progress in? Is that making sense? I hope it is. So that's the first question. What are the results? And I guess, how would you know that you have achieved those results? So what's the measure? What would you notice? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you be doing in each of those dimensions? So that's the first space, is just to really unpack that for yourself. The second thing that we want to look at is, in terms of setting yourself up to have a roadmap, is if you know where you want to be going and you know what you're aiming at broadly in terms of your focus and your intention and the types of results that you want, then the question is, where are you now? So what's your current reality? Okay, so we do results first and then we do reality second. And so it's asking yourself the question, what is your current reality in relation to the projects? And then you would, again, note all those things down. What projects have started, which projects have stalled, which are on track, which are not on track, which ones need to get onto the agenda, which ones need to be prioritized, and so on. And then you would move on to people. So what is the current reality in terms of the people dimension? So your team, what's the current status with your team? How strong is the relationship? How's the team working? In terms of how well is the team resourced? Those sorts of things. And then all the other people aspects, your network, your whether it's mentors or coaches, or whether it's partners, associates, your family, teachers, peers, stakeholders, all of those. What is the reality as it stands now in each of those dimensions? So you would brainstorm each of those out. Then the personal aspect. So when you think about your current reality around, yourself. So how are you showing up at the moment? How are you feeling? What's working for you? What's maybe needs some attention? How is your sleep? How is your energy? What are you focused on? What are you being distracted by? Get all of that out, so that you know what's your current reality. I think that one of the important things about this reality piece is that when we want to make progress, we can only make progress if we're honest about where we're starting. Yeah, so we've got a platform to move forward from. And so this is why this dimension is super important. Okay, and then finally, performance. Let's talk about, the performance. What's the reality right now of performance? Your performance, the team's performance, the business unit's performance, the business's performance. How processes are working, how systems are working. What are you delivering? What's not quite being delivered? Whatever it is that you measure, How is that against the benchmarks or the requirements? Yeah, so what is the current level of performance? If you were your boss assessing your performance, what would you notice? How would you assess it? Yeah, so again, we just want to get a dose of reality. So what that does is it means that we now have a starting point where we are at the beginning of the year, and we've got a result or an end point, a results point. We know where we want to get to or what we want to head towards. And so that then starts to give us, the ideas about the way forward. But we've got to be realistic, and we've got to recognize what else we need to cater to, deal with, recognize as something that we might need to work around or with or over or under. And so that brings us to the third column, this middle column, which is about the roadblocks. And roadblocks is about identifying everything that's between where we are and where we want to be, or the direction that we want to be moving towards and making progress towards. And so the roadblocks, again, it's just a brainstorming exercise. What is everything that's between where you are and where you want to be in relation to your projects? So that's the first question you ask. What are all the roadblocks from a project perspective? And so that might be time and resources and clarity of priorities. It might be sponsorship. It might be capability. It might be there's so many great things to do. How do we choose which one goes first? So what are all the roadblocks from a project's perspective? Then the next piece is, what are all the roadblocks from a people perspective? And so that might be the state of relationships. And some might be good and some might not be good. It might be that you need to establish new relationships or build better collaboration between different teams within your organization. It might be from a people perspective that you need to be, one of the roadblocks is that you're not spending enough quality time with your family, so that's impacting your ability to perform at work. So that might be another roadblock. So again, we brainstorm down all of those things. And so some of them will be obstacles, some of them will be challenges, some of them will be limitations or constraints. Some of them will just be, or might be risks. Some of them will just be things that we know that we need to focus on in order to be able to move forward. It might be, a roadblock might be time. How do I allocate my time amongst these different things? So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just something that we need to consider in order for us to be able to make progress. So again, third dimension is personal. So what are the roadblocks here on the personal side? Is it your energy? Is it your focus? Is it your own prioritizing? Is it your boundary setting? What is it that potentially represents a roadblock between where you are and where you want to be? Putting yourself first, maybe that's a roadblock. So we brainstorm all of those out. And then finally, performance. What are all the roadblocks on your performance from where you are to where you're going to, where you're traveling to? And so we brainstorm out all of those elements as well. What's everything between where you are now and where you want to be? And that again might be things like, from a performance perspective, it might be about tools or resources or priorities or systems or processes. It might be about how we measure things. There's so many different aspects, and only you know which of those aspects are going to show up as a potential roadblock. Yeah. And so by going through this exercise, you just get a really good picture of where you are and what you need to work through in order to get to where you're going. And then you can pick and choose the things that you are going to focus on with intention this year or 6 months or 3 months, whatever the period is that you choose. And by doing that exercise, you can get really clear about, well, this is where I am. This is what I need to consider in terms of the roadblocks to get to the result that I want that's important to me. And then you can come up with, a plan, a way of doing that with intention. And so, as I said, I know circumstances are going to change. I know that there's still lots of elements that we're not completely sure how the 2021 is going to pan out, except we know it's still going to be complex and challenging. And on top of that, we've got people who are still tired from 2020 and are still coping with all of, trying to cope with all the changes that challenged them then. So we set our intention, but we have the ability to adapt and be agile. And you can come back and revisit, your 3 R's in the light of the challenges and changes that happen during the year. And you can just adapt that. But keep clear about, what are the simple things that you want to be able to focus on and make progress with during the year. As again, I've only picked 4 dimensions: those projects, people, personal, and performance. You can pick as many dimensions or as few as you would like to really fine-tune your focus. Completely up to you. All right. So I actually have, if I can just get up my other screen, a little resource that will help you to do this exercise for yourself. So the 3 R's there, you can see it there. It's got all the questions on it, and you can use that to actually do that brainstorming exercise for yourself or with your team. So if you would like to get a copy of that, just pop it in the comments. Just type 3 R's, and I'll make sure that that you get a copy of that little tool as well. So I hope that that's given you some ideas to think about how you start to craft a roadmap for 2021 that helps you get clear about your intention and areas of focus, and helps you to start mapping out how you get from where you are right now to making progress against those areas of focus. So I would love to know your thoughts and how you see yourself perhaps using that approach either individually or with the people around you. I'll be back on Wednesday morning, and we'll be talking about refocus on Wednesday morning. So I hope to see you again then.